Broncos country, is Kyle Williams the best wide receiver prospect none of us have heard about till like a week ago or so? I'm going to be diving in to his profile. We'll take a look at some highlights, film, and kind of see what draft experts are saying about him, guys that I think he comps to, and why I think he could potentially be a sneaky good addition to the Broncos at the wide receiver position. And it's not I don't think he will cost a first round pick. So, y'all let me know your thoughts as always. Smash that like and subscribe. But let's go ahead and get started, y'all. So, probably what I thought was like very, very interesting is Chris Sims. Let me actually go to this slide right here, who I really do respect a lot of his NFL draft analysis and takes. I think he's been pretty good over the years with quarterbacks, getting those right. And I think he's good with wide receivers too. I remember specifically last year, he had Malik Neighbors at the top of the class, then followed by Brian Thomas Jr., and then Marvin Harrison Jr. And that was pretty controversial, but I feel like, especially over the last few years, he's been really good with his wide receiver rankings. I think he had Bo Nix as like his third or fourth quarterback, which I thought was very respectable going into last year's draft. And we know how that turned out. So I thought that this was very interesting. His rankings here, Travis Hunter in a tier of on his own, which I think is, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, no doubt about it. But then tier two, he has Kyle Williams at the top of tier two as a day one difference maker for an NFL team, like a guy that can play day one. Kyle Williams right up there ahead of Tet McMillan, Jalen Knoll, and Trey Harris. I thought was interesting. So what is all the hype about? Well, he has a great production profile here. Let's go ahead and take a look at just some of his route running here. Kyle Williams against man coverage in college, 505 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, 20 receptions, 33 targets, 0 drops. This is very important because he has had inconsistent hands throughout his college career, but in these situations, he has been absolutely money. Here in 2023, you with a fan for a touchdown, man. That was tough to watch, man. That whole Washington State game was absolutely brutal as a Buffs fan, but he is great, and I've seen some interesting comps to him, but I think one that I like as a Broncos fan is he kind of does remind me of Emmanuel Sanders in some ways, or maybe some aspects of Jerry Judy, where maybe not the fastest guy, kind of moves a little bit differently, but gets open, can make big time plays, and can get downfield and take the top off the defense. And so those are some qualities that I really do like about him. When you get into his NFL.com profile, interesting stuff. They rate him as a 6.2, will eventually be an average starter. Man, who knows? But 5'11, 190 pounds. So not necessarily like the 6'3, 6'4 wide receivers that, I typically like. I like my wide receivers tall, but plenty of speed, 4.4 speed, 1.55 second 10-yard split, 36.5 vertical, 9 and 11 broad jump. Lance Zerline, I thought that this was really interesting. Actually comped him to Marvin Mims, and I think it's mainly because of his straight line speed, the ability to take the top off the defense. Now, Lance goes on to say, he's not that polished of a route runner, but I feel like he's more polished of a route runner than Marvin Mims was coming out of Oklahoma. That's just me, but you might say, well, does that make him redundant to this offense? I don't think so. Give me guys with Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and Kyle Williams on the field, in certain formations. Give me all the speed. But I think that we'll dive into some clips here in a minute, but I think that he could definitely play a nice role for the Broncos. He also adds some versatility. So you can put him in the slot. You can put him out wide. You can do those end arounds or little bubble screens, the things that we've seen us do with Marvin Mims. But I think that, again, he's coming in as a guy. This is why Chris Sims has him rated so highly, is because he's like, yeah, this guy can run really good routes. And I find that very interesting that there's kind of like a big divide on him. He is a fifth year senior coming out. So 3 years at UNLV, last 2 years at Washington State. He did have 5 drops this past year, which is something to note. But again, against man coverage, he was perfect. No drops, caught all, uh, or had he didn't catch all the targets, but you understand what I'm saying. Like no drops, caught basically everything that's thrown towards him. Put up almost 1,200 yards this past year at Washington State, 14 touchdowns. He was fantastic. But let's go ahead and dive into like a couple of these clips that I had for us right here against Boise State. Again, Washington State kind of more so played Mountain West this past year. But Boise State was a darn good program. And you can see right here just the ability to separate, I think, is one of his best qualities. I really love that. We'll watch that again this time here on slow mo. Hopefully, I don't got to clip this out. But working with single coverage right there just burns that DB, just like you saw him burn Travis Hunter in that clip earlier. Again, he's a guy that can take the top off the defense. He's going to be dangerous in single coverage. And again, he kind of does remind me of Emmanuel Sanders, just with his ability to make plays downfield. I think that he tracks the ball really well downfield in these situations, which is something that our wide receiver group needs is better deep ball tracking. And some other clips that I've seen, there wasn't a lot of this in the Boise State game, but playing up against press man, I felt like he has a good release package. He has quick feet. And so he's going to be able to get off press man in the NFL. I definitely believe that. But I think there are some fair criticisms, like Clint Zerline points out. Like, yeah, like he could refine his route running, his breaks at the top of his routes a little bit better. But there was one more clip that I wanted to show here at the 33:30 mark. Again, this is sponsored by Guru Film Room. Links in the description if you want access to the largest database for player cutups in the NFL draft. Let's go ahead and get to this one. So you'll see Kyle Williams up here or down here and just runs like a little hitch route. But then watch his acceleration coming out of the catch. Boom. And then just continuing to run through contact. Love it. Yeah, maybe that's where you kind of see some shades of Marvin Mims. But again, I just thought he did a really great job. This little hitch route, making sure he's finding kind of the open part of the zone right there and turning this short pass into a big time gain. That was really, really nice. And I forgot there was one more clip that I had here of just from Mike Renner saying, I think the most underrated player in the draft class right now is Kyle Williams. Easy separator at every level of the defense, elite juice, fastest wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, clocked at 21.36 miles per hour, and yak 20 broken tackles on 70 catches in 2024. So he's going to be able to make plays. Again, similar to Emmanuel Sanders, man. Like he always played bigger than his size. I think Emmanuel was like 5'11 as well, but just always played bigger than his size. I think he's somebody that kind of fits that mold as well. Here you can kind of see his ability, his release package right there. Again, just really quick. And yeah, I feel like the route running's fine there, right? But I think that he's going to be somebody that's going to be able to contribute early. I definitely would agree with Chris Sims on this, just because again he he can get off coverage or press man coverage easily. I think he's a good route runner, and I think that he's tough. Good ball tracking, has the speed. I mean, what's not to love? Well, there are a couple things. Like I said, he's a fifth year senior, which I think is going to affect his draft stock a little bit older than some of the other guys. And again, has struggled with drops at certain points in his career. And sorry, I'm just getting distracted. That was just beautiful. But what I will say, I think some things going in his favor is that again, this isn't the greatest wide receiver class at all. It's not. I think it's filled with a lot of question marks, but there are some guys I think with some good upside. Yeah, if he's there in the third round, why not? Why not Broncos? That's kind of how I feel about it. Now, will he go round two? We'll see. Mike Renner, who just posted that clip, he thinks that he should go early round two. So there's quite a bit of a divide. I think PFF still has him ranked as like a fifth, sixth round pick, something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where his stock goes from here as we're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. But yeah, like Kyle Williams, he's definitely a guy that I'm interested in. And again, I want guys with speed, baby. That is what's very important to me. Let's make sure you can separate at the NFL level. I think Kyle Williams demonstrates that. So, y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Kind of where would you put him? What do you think of him? But yeah, Chris Sims, like I respect a lot of his opinions. Now, he did miss on Olave in 2022. That didn't look good. But again, when you look at 23, 24, I I think he did a fantastic job, and I think he's absolutely on the money right now that Travis Hunter is in a tier of his own when it comes to this wide receivers class. So, y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like and subscribe as always. Go Broncos.